Welcome to part 2 of this series, the series where I review 3 58mm lenses for Nikon. This time is about the Voigtlander Nokton 58mm f1.4 SL2. This beautiful black metal lens looks like it from a bygone age, reminding us of our old Nikon lenses that we used to own back in the day. Or still own, maybe I should say. You can clearly see the resemblance and that it's based on the old Nikon lenses, by the look of its focusing ring, the focusing scale down there, and the rabbit ears by the aperture ring. As with the Nokt, it's a heavy lens for its size. The weight is 320 gram. The close focus on this lens is 0.45mm. It's got 7 elements in 6 groups and 9 aperture blades. Since this lens is a newer lens after all, even though it looks old, you got some CPU contacts built in that will make your lens communicate with those newer Nikon cameras, which is a very nice feature. I'd say, just strictly looking at the physical attributes of this lens, it's one of the most beautiful lenses I have ever owned or used, to be honest. And just to operate the lens itself, turning the focus ring, it's just silky smooth in operation. A sheer joy to use, to be honest. This particular model of the Voigtlander 58mm lens comes in 2 different versions. When I searched for the lens, I saw that there was a black one, and then there was this one, the one with the silver ring up top. And I'd have to say that this one is the most beautiful of the 2, for sure, in my opinion, at least. I know just by saying this that I'm dangerously close to crossing over into camera geek territory at its worst. But the combination of the Nikon F2 and the Voigtlander mounted on it, I mean, it's just a thing of beauty, to be honest, and one of my favorite combinations to use as a team. Out of the 3 lenses that I'm reviewing in this series, the Voigtlander 58mm was the last one that I got, and the one I've used the least thus far. And before going over some of my opinions about the lens and how it actually performed while I use the lens, I'm gonna share some photos with you taken with this lens. As I've said, this lens is a joy to use, but the performance doesn't disappoint either. It's a very sharp lens if you stop down a bit, and it's only at f1.4 you can really see it's a bit soft. Even at f1.4 I don't think it's that bad, to be honest, just a tad soft. But just stopping down after like f2.0, it will already get a lot sharper. I have used this lens a lot around f1.4 myself, and I'd say it's very, very usable. If you want some nice bokeh, I wouldn't hesitate to use it around f1.4. And while it's not the best bokeh I've seen in lenses, it's very, very nice, and it gets some nice character to the lens as well. And stopping down you get some nice 3D pop from the lens as well. It definitely got some magic character to it. I won't make any great comparison between the other 2 lenses that I'm reviewing in this series for now. I'll do that in my last episode. But I can say, comparing it to the other lenses I've used, it's one of my favorites for sure, and it gets a lot of use from me. But most of all, it's just a fun lens to use. That's why it gets so much use from me. And the performance and the build quality and just the joy of using it on all my cameras makes it a very special lens in my collection. I'm gonna bring up some cons then as well, of course, and while it doesn't have a lot of cons for me at least, one of them would be that you don't get a lens hood included, or at least I didn't get one, and I think the original hoods you can buy are quite expensive as well. Another small con would be the softness at f1.4, but as I told you, it isn't anything that big of a deal for me, but also got some chromatic aberrations, just a little bit though, nothing to worry about I think. So to another con that actually was quite annoying in the beginning. This lens tends to overexpose, like 2 stops, and I heard that from several other reviewers and users as well, so it's not only me or my lens, my sample, that got that problem. So it's a common problem apparently, and while I was pretty devastated by the fact to begin with, I started searching the internet and found out on many forums and from other users that had the same problem, that it's a constant problem and something you can work around by just setting your exposure compensation to compensate for that problem, and you're good to go. So that's not that bad after all, to be honest. And then I'm gonna tell you of another thing I found out that would actually fix the problem for some people, which is quite nice. So how do you fix this annoying overexposure problem? Well, first out I just wanna give a big thank you to the guy that commented on the same YouTube video as me on a review of the Voigtlander 58. He was the guy that pointed out that on his digital camera, instead of setting the aperture to f16 and letting the command dial on the camera take care of the aperture, he actually went into the menu and let the aperturing on a lens itself take care of the aperture. And that actually solved the problem for him. And apparently it did for me as well. So hopefully that will help you guys as well if you run into the same problem. So the Voigtlander 58mm SL2 Nokton is a fantastic lens, and I look forward to using it a lot in the future. It is the 58mm lens I use the most nowadays, and it gets a lot of use on my film cameras. But occasionally I put it on my digital cameras as well, and it's always a joy to use and a conversation point for a lot of people seeing it in action as well, coming up to me and wondering what kind of lens it is and saying how beautiful, or stating how beautiful it looks. And yeah, I can really recommend the lens for anyone being interested in it. Just get it, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching.